As I said at the top of the show, our public schools are definitely dealing with some challenges in recruiting and retaining the teachers our students need, but there are some serious efforts underway to try to help. And joining us first are two superintendents who are both living those challenges but are intimately involved in trying to find some solutions. We have Dr. Patrick Miller. Dr. Miller is the superintendent of Greene County Schools. He is also currently the chairman of the Professional Educator Preparation and Standards Commission, the Pepsi Commission. We'll just call it Pepsi from now on. And next to him is Dr. Fleming. Welcome back to the show, Aaron. Aaron is the superintendent of Harnett County Schools, and he also sits on that commission. So you heard my setup, so that's what I want to talk about. I mean, first off, we really haven't talked about Pepsi itself much on the show, sort of explaining it. You're the chairman. You've been, I guess it's been in place now for, what, a year?
Since September 1st, 2017.
Okay, so I guess first of all, just sort of in layman's terms, I looked at the legislation. What is the purpose and what is the charge of the commission?
The purpose of the Pepsi Commission is to make recommendations to the State Board of Education in the areas of teacher licensure and educator preparation programs, or EPPs, as we like to call them.
Mm-hmm. So, what was your initial focus? I mean, again, I know that sort of the genesis of the legislation itself. I remember when Senator Barefoot introduced it. I mean, the whole point was to say, are we making it too difficult to become a teacher in North Carolina? Was that your initial focus? Is really kind of looking at what where were there barriers?
Right, and one of the first items of business Pepsi had to tackle was aligning existing policy in the arenas of EPPs and teacher licensure to match the statute from Senate Bill 599, and that took us, it was an incredibly tight timeline, and it took us about we started meeting in October of 2017, and I think we finally completed that work around May of 2018. So our first several months of action was reactive. Now we're able to be a little more proactive with the things and the issues that we take on.
Now, Aaron, as a superintendent yourself, I'm presuming that the opportunity to serve on the commission was something that you welcomed, at least an idea, because you see like sort of where perhaps some of the challenges are really firsthand.
Absolutely. I think once I was put onto the commission, I think one of the areas that I really was interested that we focus in is who exactly can we reach out to get new teachers into the state and into, in my situation, Harnett County. And so one of the, as Dr. Miller had mentioned, one of the goals was to really align all of our educator preparation programs, who is approved, what's the process for approval, and now we're working on those programs that may not meet exactly the quality control that we require. You know, what's the process there? And so definitely, once we've got the EPP programs established, then we can work on what are the requirements for the teachers to become certified in North Carolina as well. So it's been a great opportunity to serve on the commission.
Well, that's a good, actually, let's make sure our viewers understand the difference here, because we are talking about there are two different things. And in fact, I was thinking more about are the teachers, certified and ready to go in the classroom? But you've actually been looking at, again, the educator preparation programs. Do we have the right standards for the existing ones? And then sort of what, if we had new ones coming into the market, or just new teachers coming from other programs? That's what you were looking at.
Right. One of the charges of the commission is to examine teacher preparation. And that, for me, was something I had to learn about. And we have numerous deans of colleges of education on Pepsi, and so I've had an opportunity to learn a lot from them about teacher preparation. But it's really about what can we all do together to increase the pipeline, to make it feasible for teachers to come in, and also within North Carolina, how can we get more teachers to enter the profession?
Right. Well, Dr. Fleming, let me ask you, I mean, it seems like one of the, pressure points or tensions that is sort of going to always happen is, are you trying to lower the standards to increase the number of teachers coming in? Sort of where's that balance? Is that something that is that a big part of y'all's thinking about it?
There have been conversations around that. I don't think the commission has a goal of lowering standards. I think what we want to be able to do is find the highest quality individuals out there that want to become teachers and to find the best teachers across our country and allow them to come to North Carolina without so many roadblocks. You know, there's been a lot of focus on the math exam and the pass and failure rate of that exam, and that's one of the issues the commission took upon us in hearing those concerns. And so now teachers do have a choice on which exam to take, but they're both nationally recognized assessments that teachers in other states are taking as well. And so I don't think it's definitely not a lowering of standards. What it is, we're trying to find the highest quality person wherever they may be.
Right. Well, on the issue of lowering standards, I mean, that was, look, I mean, the first, at least the first public that I saw, I don't know, tension back and forth between the Pepsi Commission and the State Board of Education. You sent over a recommendation about out-of-state licensure. They sent it back. You sent it back again. I think they sent it back again, right? So,
yep.
But that just passed. I mentioned that in the ed line. So tell me about that sort of what was the sort of crux of that, let's say, disagreement, and sort of where'd you end up?
It wasn't really a disagreement. I think what state board members wanted was some assurances that we were not, in fact, lowering standards. And how we ultimately compromised and got that passed was we made both tests available rather than eliminating one and adding another. We made them both available so that the EPPs and/or the candidates can choose which test they would prefer to take. And I think that solved the issue. But there was a lot of back and forth and a lot of telephone calls and conversations.
Well, it's important. I mean, you know, you got to get it right. Let me, okay, Dr. Fleming, let me ask you. Now let's switch gears a little bit more into your district yourself. What is your experience right now? And I know, and Patrick's been in this longer, but I mean, are you more vacancies? Are you seeing fewer candidates? Are there certain things? Are vacancies longer? Kind of give me what's on the ground in Harnett County?
We typically always have some form of vacancy when it comes to a certified educator or teacher. What we're trying to do more now, and I think we've been able to work on that in this commission. Right now, we have HR staff doing recruiting trips in the Northeast and Michigan, Ohio Valley right now as we speak. And I think that's an example of where now that there are some assurances where we're able to get these teachers in without too many roadblocks. So yes, we do. We have a lot of vacancies throughout the year, but we've been able to close them. But we do have, through traveling outside the state to find teachers. We are still struggling with Wake County right at our border. We do struggle with getting those teachers straight out of a North Carolina program because they may want to be in a bigger municipal area like Raleigh or Charlotte,
right,
or in the Triad. But we're trying to do all we can to fill that from internal, but also having to go outside the state as well.
What's your priorities going forward?
Couple things are on our plate right now. As you heard Dr. Fleming say, we're looking at educator preparation programs, accountability, and what sanctions might be for those EPPs that don't meet the outcomes that we have recommended to the state.
And the outcomes meaning like either whether it's test scores of the teachers, evaluations of them once they're in the classroom?
I don't know exactly what they're going to be yet because we haven't. Tomorrow is the first presentation at our meeting that we'll hear about those, but we have all three of our subcommittees actively working in that arena, as well as looking down the road to a licensure overhaul.
Right, well, very good. Well, let me ask just one last question for you, Dr. Fleming. Are you looking at programs like, I know Johnston County, we had Superintendent Renfro on not long ago talking about the 2+2 programs, the community college partnerships. Are those things promising? I think those are something we can look at?
I think they are. We've had conversations with our local community college, Central Carolina Community College, and Campbell University, which is also, of course, right in the heart of Harnett County, about doing that and growing our own educators.
So it's kind of it's sort of getting kids right out of high school into, again, a more affordable, quicker path into the first couple of years and then straight into an education program.
I think we've spent a lot of time in recent years working on pathways for careers in CTE, health occupations, all these different pathways. It only makes sense for us to add a pathway for education.
I think it does too. Thank you both. Thank you both for being here and for what y'all do every day. So thanks so much. After a brief commercial break, we're going to be back to talk with two higher education leaders who are very engaged in teacher preparation efforts. But before we go to break, see if you can answer this question. True or false, the University of North Carolina system is the single largest source of our state's public school teachers?
Education Matters is brought to you each week in part by Paragon Bank, serving others, enriching lives.